Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
All right, thanks for sticking around for the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. I'm Rich Walsh. We'll be taking your phone calls tonight. 412-575-2600 is the number. As every Wednesday here, it's Chris Mueller over at the 93.7 The Fan Cam, and I love that T-shirt, 13-9, rubbing it in a little bit to the West Virginia fans. I actually heard you on the radio on the way in, and I was wondering if you were going to wear the T-shirt tonight, and I'm glad you did.
Rich, I mean, yes, am I alienating more of our southern Pennsylvania, maybe our Greene County and some Fayette County listeners? Am I stock way down right now in places like Fairchance, Pennsylvania? Perhaps, but I've got to live my truth, Rich. One of the greatest and most consequential upsets in college football history. And that night, let's not forget, Pitt also beat the Big East refereeing crew that was desperate to get West Virginia to the national title game, and they were calling holding penalties on me even though I was across the state in Westchester.
You know, I was there at that game, and I hate to even admit this, Chris, but I will because you wore the T-shirt and we're talking about the game. It was the first time that I ever rooted against Pitt in a game. But the only reason I did it because I was headed to the Sugar Bowl. I was going to the national championship to cover West Virginia. We had all our plans made. I was going to cover the game. And obviously the game meant a lot to Pitt, and we still remember it, but they weren't headed to a bowl. They had a losing record that year. They really had nothing to play for outside of ruining West Virginia's night. Maybe the worst loss, I would have to say, I don't even think it's arguably the worst loss, but it's definitely the worst loss in West Virginia football history. I think it set the program back. Rich Rodriguez was on a plane the next day to Michigan, and I don't think they have recovered yet from that.
Yes. Let's think about what's important here. Richie Walsh denied a chance to go and have some fine Creole food and
It would have been fun.
It's
New Orleans. I was looking forward to it.
I know. Listen, I'm not dogging you for that. I will say, it's just since I wore the shirt, and I know we've got other stuff to get to, and we will, but I said consequential upset because I don't think there's ever been a team favored by more with more on the line in one game that saw it all disappear into the mist the way West Virginia did. An extremely damaging loss to them in the short and long term, which is why it's so much fun to remind them of it all the time.
I think they would have won the national championship that year, too. I really do. I thought they were the best team.
I actually agree with you. I think they were going to win it all. Oh, well. Oops, them's the breaks.
There's going to be a lot of West Virginia fans that don't like us tonight, but oh well. All right, now to our Penn West University question of the night. Just scan that QR code in the right-hand corner of your screen. And obviously, we're going to be talking about the quarterback situation here. Who would you rather see as the starting quarterback next year? Drew Aller, Will Howard, Baker Mayfield is on the list. He potentially could be an option, trying to figure out how the Steelers could afford him, paying a quarterback, also paying T.J. Watt. But I'm guessing Omar Khan could figure something out. But for me, honestly, I'd like to see one of the two young guys that I'm leading, Drew Aller, if things work out.
Well, if you believe that the Steelers are an established, proven quarterback away from making some sort of major noise in the AFC, like you just think if you could add a better quarterback than 42-year-old Rodgers to this year's team and you'd really have something, the answer to this question should be Mayfield. If you think the Steelers are probably closer to being a team that has to really retool on the fly some of its defense, some of its offense, that still the parts are coalescing, then I think you want to see one of the younger guys. And if you made me pick between those three, I'm tempted to say Mayfield just because I'd want to see it for a curiosity factor. What would you do if you added a guy that could throw 35 touchdowns to this roster? But my answer would be Drew Aller. I don't want them to keep Mason Rudolph right now as their backup, which it looks like they're going to do, because I would rather Will Howard get his shot as the backup this year. You give Drew Aller his redshirt year that I think everyone agrees he still needs, even with that good first preseason game. And then you I would still draft a first rounder and probably let Aller compete with that guy. And if Aller wins and you've got sort of a quasi Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers situation, that's a good problem to have. But of these three choices, I'm torn. I'd probably say Mayfield in the interest of trying to contend, and then it would be Aller a close second. I will say, Rich, I don't know about you. I don't know how you feel about this. I think Friday night's game, now that we know Rudolph's not playing, we know Rodgers is not playing, becomes one of the more interesting and intriguing preseason games for the Steelers in a long time. I mean, people have been pining to see young quarterbacks that might have a future with this team get some sort of real game action, even in a preseason game. And now you're going to get it on Friday. And I think Will Howard has a chance to either make or break whatever is going to amount to his Steelers career. If he doesn't look good, I think it makes their decision to maybe keep 3 quarterbacks and he's not one of them a lot easier.
Yeah, that actually leads me to my next question, which I was going to ask you. Will Howard has to play well, I would think, in this game in order to make the team, right? He's getting a chance with the first teamers. This is a prove it or lose it situation, right?
I think there's, I don't know if it's just that binary here. You either play well if you're Will Howard or you're done. But we know Drew Aller's on the team. So Drew Aller, the stakes are more, can you continue to get people excited by having an arm where the ball comes off easy and it's just flick of the wrist stuff? And can you continue to look basically really good? In Howard's case, I do think it is playing to try to make Mike McCarthy and Omar Khan's decision a difficult one. I would prefer that if Will Howard looked really good and looked really poised and polished and in control of himself and gets him in and out of the huddle and they have a much cleaner game as pertaining to penalties, Rich. I'll say it again. Look for some desperate team that wants to trade you a late-round pick for Mason Rudolph and just roll with the young guys. There are a lot of Steelers fans that seem now that the team keeps sort of telegraphing that they might keep 4, try to keep 4, saying, oh yeah, great idea. I disagree. If Aaron Rodgers is done for more than like a week, your season becomes very perilous. So if you're worried about him getting hurt, just say screw it and go with the young guys. Like, we know what Mason Rudolph is and isn't now at this point in his career. I'd love to see Howard play well and the Steelers just go bold and go with him as QB2.
But it is the most important position, Chris. And if you're torn, if you think Will Howard might be able to compete next year, you got to keep him.
Do you? Drew Aller was their 3rd-round pick of this regime. They said all those nice things about Will Howard. They would have picked him earlier if McCarthy said if he was in the fold back last year, but he wasn't. And they drafted a guy in the first 80 picks that has probably first-round raw physical tools, and McCarthy wants to mold him. So I'm not so sure that they do have to keep Will Howard. I would just say this, like, the last raps on sort of Mason Rudolph, who's gone through his, 80-second glow-up here in the eyes of fans, where it's, oh, no, he's actually better than you think. I'm not so sure he is. I thought we saw Mason Rudolph have that incredible 3-game run. We all know what it did for Tomlin's team, 10-7 when they probably should have been 7-10, a competitive playoff game in Buffalo. I think that was probably the apex for him. And I don't know if he's even a top, 10 backup right now in the league. I think he's being overvalued by Steelers fans.
But if you want a veteran game manager, Aaron Rodgers out maybe, 2-3 games at one point. He might be a guy that doesn't lose you the game, right, compared to the other 2 guys, if you still think you are in the hunt and you have a chance to get to the postseason.
I don't know. Does he like Mike McCarthy's offense? Does it work for him? Does he like the short throws? McCarthy wants a mobile guy. I know Rodgers isn't, but the other 2 guys are compared to Rudolph. I hear that game manager stuff, but how did he do last year when they needed him? The Buffalo game very briefly was bad. The Bears game was extremely underwhelming. So I think that, again, he's living off of a couple of years ago playing really well in a 3-game stretch out of nowhere and not much else really happening out there for him.
He saved Mike Tomlin's non-losing season streak. So
that's the important thing. Yeah. To be fair.
All right, we got to take your phone calls coming up next. 412-575-2600 is the number. Back in a couple minutes. All right, welcome back to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. And this is a great tweet right here for our Xfinity tweet of the night. The Pittsburgh Pirates have now played 22,089 games in franchise history. Rafael Flores Jr. becomes the first player in franchise history to have a multi-homer game off the bench. Incredible. Baseball is just incredible from Ryan Spader. That tweet took me by surprise. I would have never have guessed that Flores would be the only one to do that.
I would have thought maybe some guy like John Vanderwall. Wasn't Gary Varsho way back in the day known for his pinch hitting acumen? I know Vanderwall was the king of it. I would have thought, too, maybe you'd have a game where a starter got the night off for the most part, came in as a pinch hitter, hit a home run, game went to extras, hit another home run. I'm stunned that it hasn't happened. I was going to look around before I saw that tweet, Rich, and say, like, who's the last guy for the Pirates to come in as a bench guy and hit 2 home runs in regulation, like between the 7th and 9th innings? I bet you there aren't too many guys, even in franchise history, who started a game who hit 2 late home runs to win one. I bet it is a reasonably exclusive club. And it also feels like that game earlier today, one of their better wins of the season, feel-good wins, Rich, they're on life support, right? I mean, the priest is outside the door waiting to give them last rites. If they lose to the Tigers, I think he might walk in the room, but they've staved it off again. And now the task gets really tough. You got to go probably take 2 or 3 from the Dodgers, and this seems extreme. You probably got to sweep the San Diego Padres, who's the main team you're trying to chase down, if you want to start making this anything resembling interesting.
Hey, we made the call last week, I thought, August 12th, that it was over. I still think they don't have a chance. They have to win 2 out of 3 the rest of the way out.
Advances in modern medicine have convinced me that perhaps we were premature. I still think that we were right in doing so, but again, they've got a faint pulse here, and so we have to at least humor them through this West Coast trip. If anything, people should at least be thrilled for the privilege to stay up and get exceptionally angry over the next couple of days about West Coast baseball, potentially.
Well, Chris, you're not going to have a pulse if Paul Skeens continues to pitch the way he does. I mean, maybe a little bit better today, a little bit more velocity, but the guy only went 4 1/3, 81 pitches. There's something seriously wrong here, and I understand they pushed him back, but what else can you do at this point?
Well, he didn't want to be pushed back, obviously. That's like a quasi-demotion or a small demotion. I know he wasn't happy about it. He got asked if he thought it helped, and he said maybe in the long term. I think he tried to toe the company line, but he's not thrilled, clearly. I thought his velocity was up slightly. Yeah, we saw the numbers, but Rich, to me, the story is the command of the breaking balls. He doesn't throw competitive pitches. Sometimes these are pitches 7, 8 inches off the plate. A major league hitter, that's a mile off, and they can take that easily and wait for a good pitch. I think it's really a story more than anything right this second about the fact that he cannot command the put-away stuff, the sweeper, the splinker, the slider, whatever he ends up throwing. That, to me, is more mechanical than anything. You've got a guy like Curt Schilling saying it's actually mechanical stuff that was taking velocity off of his fastball, that he needs to have somebody in that organization. I think he said earlier tonight has to be bold enough and brave enough to tell Skeens this, and Skeens needs to be willing to hear it. I'll say this, if that's right, and Schilling knows a lot about pitching, Bill Murphy was Skeens' guy more than anybody else's, you would imagine, replacing Oscar Marine. He's done really nothing as the pitching coach. So it all traces back to them kowtowing a little bit to, I think, Skeens' wishes, and it's gone sideways on them in a lot of ways as a result.
You know, I think it all starts with velocity, and if you had the velocity he had last year, those breaking pitches look more like strikes, and then they break off. Now they just are out of the zone, and that's where I think this command issue. It starts with
Rich,
the velocity.
I lost you halfway through that for a second.
I was saying I think it starts with velocity. For me, it starts with velocity. If he had more velocity, those breaking pitches you were talking about look like they're a strike at one point, and you got to swing at them, and then they break off the plate.
I heard you say they've got to swing at it and then they break off the plate, Rich. So fighting an audio issue here.
Right.
I will pontificate for 1 second, and I will just say if the pitches aren't competitive, none of the stuff he's trying to dot on the the put away pitches, 2 strike pitches, is going to threaten these guys, and then he's going to look like just another pitcher. He's not efficient. He's not throwing stuff that they think they can hit that breaks off of their bat like Ashcraft does right now. That is the main difference I've seen from Paul Skeens.
Yeah, and I think it starts with velocity. That's what I was saying, because more velocity, those pitches break. All right, let's go out to one of our tweets. Jace Collins tweeted us, given Henry Davis' struggles, do you think the Pirates will call up newly acquired Christian Bethancourt soon? I mean, I think you stick with someone like Flores. I mean, Henry Davis is batting 170. Paul Skeens can't even find the zone now. Why does he need a personal catcher that's batting 170?
Rich, whatever you said sounds awesome. Again, my earpiece has completely gone out on me. I blame Filippone.
Okay.
This is a stunning development. I feel like I'm Paul Skeens and I've lost my release point, but I know whatever you said was
right.
A-plus stuff right there.
All right, we're going to take a break. Back in a couple minutes. All right, welcome back to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. I'm Rich Walsh. Chris Mueller's having audio issues right now, so I'm going to read one of these tweets here. Do you guys give Nicky G a chance at winning the batting title? And where does he play next year? Glove is a problem. I think he has to play second base. Maybe you move Jacob Gonzalez to third or find a third baseman. Connor Griffin's also your shortstop. So that's what I want him around, and I think he's a second baseman. He's a better second baseman than he is a third baseman, that is for sure. Let's go out to the phone lines. We got Mel out in Hempfield. How you doing, Mel? Mel, you there?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, Rich. You there?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks for calling.
I've heard you comment several times this year about them trading Lowe or Lau, however
Yeah,
you
Lau.
pronounce
Well, they can't do it now. They can't do it now.
Well, I realize that, but he's been a bright spot to me on the team. He seems to come through in the clutch, and I know it's about the money and the trade. So it's nice to hear you guys talk some Pirate talk.
Yeah.
In between the quarterback talk, but the other thing is you brought up in the past about comparing Howard to a sixth-round guy by the name of Brady.
I never did that.
Go back
never.
and look at the tape.
Yeah, I will. I'll rewind it. I never compared Will Howard to Tom Brady. That is not out of my mouth. Someone else might have. I've never done that.
You said he never will be. But give the kid a chance. Let him play. See what he does.
Well,
that's what I'm saying.
Right now they drafted Drew Aller, and I think he eventually is going to be ahead of Will Howard. I want to see Will Howard make the team. There's no question about it. I never compared him to Tom Brady, good or bad. I haven't done it, but thanks for your phone call. As for the Brandon Lau, yes, I was saying they should trade him because they should get something for him. They're not going to sign him, and they're not going to bring him back next year. I wish they would. I wish it wasn't about money, but with the Pirates, it is about money. So you could have got something for him if you didn't think you were going to make the postseason. But they did make some trades at the trade deadline trying to, secure a spot in the postseason. But the problem was starting pitching, like we saw today. Paul Skeens isn't Paul Skeens from what he was the last 2 years. They struggled. Ashcraft struggled there for a few games. They had, obviously, bullpen problems. They couldn't hit for a good stretch of time there. Finally, they get O'Neal Cruz back. They get Spencer Horwitz back. Their bats in the lineup. You would like to get Connor Griffin back here in the next month, but that might be too little too late for Griffin. But you need a guy like O'Neal Cruz in the lineup. And missing him for months was not good for this lineup and the lack of offensive production. So, I did say they should trade Brandon Lau, and I stick by it. I wish they would have got something for it. But it was a great win, and he's a dynamic player, and he's a player that can help this team. Maybe instead of just losing him in free agency, they'll try to work out some kind of deal and bring him back next year. All right, thanks a lot. I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching. Thank you, Chris. We'll see you back here same time, same place tomorrow night. Hopefully we see you on KDKA News right now.